What is up, everybody, and welcome back. So as you can see behind me, the Genesis is missing a couple of body parts. So the hood and the trunk, both carbon pieces, are off the car. They're at a local shop right now getting re-clear coated. For those who don't know, carbon fiber parts don't actually come clear coated usually from the manufacturers. They usually just have a resin gel coat. So mine were starting to look pretty faded. I kind of got sick of looking at them. Brought them by the shop last week, and they looked at them and they said they can get it looking good as new. The top of the trunk was the worst of it. It started to look like a white paste had got spread across it. So I wanted to get that taken care of before it got any worse. But since we obviously aren't going to be driving the car around like this, I threw it up on some blocks because I need to get underneath the car. And the brand new exhaust that we put on here, I think, is already broken. So I have about like 700 miles I've driven with this exhaust on, and we were driving around last weekend and we stopped at IKEA with our friend, and I went over the big giant speed bumps. Thought I had enough angle. I didn't. I also didn't air it up, and I smashed the exhaust pretty bad. So yeah, and then the next day we were actually out looking at photo shoot spots with my other friend, and once again didn't air up over a speed bump, and I hit it pretty hard, and ever since it's been sounding a little weird. So I'm gonna get underneath that. Hopefully the exhaust hanger didn't break, and that's why it sounds a little rattly. But I want to get underneath there, double check that the bolts are tight, the hanger's good, all that good stuff. Hopefully there's no holes in it already, because like I said, it's got barely 700 miles on it. But let's get underneath the car and let's check this thing out. All right, guys, so we are underneath the car, and as you can see, we have been scraping this thing. It's actually a lot longer of a drag mark than it was previously, and I was just touching it and it's super loose. So the exhaust hanger luckily is still all intact, but I have figured out, if you can see, we have lost both bolts in the O2 housing right here. So that's probably why this whole pipe has been dragging, because it's sitting a little bit lower than it's supposed to. That would also explain why the exhaust has sounded a little weird lately and why it's been rattling. I don't know how this happened. I'm going to go back and watch the footage, because I have a feeling I didn't remember to hit these with an impact gun, and I just used a socket and a ratchet, which would suck, but at least we figured it out soon enough where it didn't like seriously damage something underneath the car or the exhaust is ruined. So this is pretty scraped up right here. It's getting thin, but I don't know if this is because it's been hanging from not having that bolt, or if this is from that 1 or 2 speed bump incidents like I mentioned, or if I should just have a custom one of these made. But I'm gonna fix or replace these bolts, and then we'll get this back mounted up where it's supposed to be. And if this thing starts getting even worse than it already is, then I will just have another one of these custom made like I had mentioned in the original exhaust video. But I wanted to blame this on stance problems, but this one, these bolts might have been on me. Like I said, I'm going to rewatch that footage to see if I hit that with an impact. I'm pretty sure I forgot to do that, and that is 100% my fault. But let's go grab some new hardware and get this thing back bolted up. Alright guys, so just watched the clip from when I installed this exhaust, and unfortunately this is 100% on me. I've never done this before. I always double check bolts and hit them with the impact, but it was honestly my first day trying to film something, so I made a mistake. Luckily it didn't ruin like the exhaust worse, or like the pipe got messed up and jammed or something. Like nothing bad happened. So went to the store, got new hardware. Unfortunately we're gonna have to go and put 2 bolts back in. Luckily it's nice and easy to reach, and the car is on these riser blocks, so it is plenty of room to work. But yeah, this one's 100% on me. So not only did I forget to air up and smash into a speed bump, I also completely forgot to get those things with the impact. And like I said, 100% my fault, but we're gonna get this thing back bolted up and back to being good. All right, guys, so we got a new exhaust gasket here. Throw the bolt in, put that through everything, get the nut going, just get this started, spin it down, grab the other one right behind me right here. So lap the gasket a little bit. Like I said, and just get this started. All right, now you do have to try and line these up a little bit. It's not a perfect fit right out of the gate, so that's why I'm just kind of trying to hand tight these a little bit, but that is pretty good. Now I'm going to come in with the impact. All right, and like I mentioned in that exhaust video, as I put this down, so the reason I didn't have to get a wrench up here to tighten these down is because, if you remember, I talked about buying serrated nuts. So that serrated nut is actually gripping the backside of this O2 housing, and that is why it's able to just impact the bolt head into the nut and it'll still tighten down, because this is gripping in. So that's another reason. This is just shows you, like, real world what I was talking about and why that serrated nut is so crucial and makes things a lot easier. So that was all bolted right back up. So I'm gonna start the car, make sure it still sounds good, make sure it sounds different than it did when this was loose. So let's go. All right, so I just had to take a quick glimpse of this. So I was double checking that I tightened these bolts down with the impact, and like I said, I hit the couple of speed bumps super bad, and I don't know if you can see this, but this flange is actually bent, and yeah, that sucks. That one is not on me. This is a stance car problem. This is stance car problems right here. I can't even believe I hit this so hard that it freaking bent the bottom of the flange. But hey, that's what you get for driving your car 1.5 inches off the ground, I guess. But whatever, no big deal. Gasket, everything, these bolts are still tight, so this is still good, but just thought that was funny. All right, guys, so as you can see, we got the car back on the ground. We're gonna start up in a second. Actually, I gotta remember to hook the battery back up. Oops. I'm just gonna loosely put that on there. The battery's disconnected because the trunk's off the car, so that way the light doesn't drain the battery. But we got the keys. Let's go in, start the car, see if it sounds better, which it should. Now the exhaust is actually connected. I'm going to close the cutout first, because that's what's most important, trying to make sure this thing gets quiet when I want it to be quiet. Oh yeah, that sounds 500 times better. Nice and quiet with the cutout closed. Oh, air compressor's kicking on a little bit. Alright, that's not bad. Now we'll take the remote for the QTP cutouts right here. We'll open it up. That sounds pretty good. And yeah, I don't know if you can hear the difference, but when the cutout is closed or open, it basically is coming out right underneath the car right there. But that's it for today. Car sounds good. I'm gonna shut this thing off because the garage door is still closed. But peace.